Andrew McGann here with SevereMMA, standing alongside Chael P. Sonnen. And Chael, I think the P in recent weeks stands for poet. Where did all of this come out of?
Well, poetry is one of the oldest forms of communication. As humans, we only have so many ways to communicate, and I thought it'd be a lot of fun.
What a better way to do it in rhyme.
Yeah, I agree.
You're fighting Shogun this weekend, and a lot of people, there's a term that wars take a couple of years out of you in MMA. Do you expect the similar type of Shogun to show up, the one that came up against Dan Henderson and couldn't take the 5 rounds?
Yeah, that fight just happened. That wasn't very long ago. I can't imagine he's very much different. He might be, he might have gotten better, but he couldn't have gotten that much better. I haven't really given him a lot of thought, but I can tell you I'm ready.
Is there a reason why you haven't given him a lot of thought? A lot of fighters say you never overlook your next opponent. You've been very vocal about Wanderlei in the press in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, and a lot of fighters suck, I'm the biggest draw and the highest paid athlete because I'm the best fighter. And you shouldn't take a big poll of opinions. You should just ask me, and I'll tell you the way it is. But it doesn't do any good to focus on a guy. And I'm a wrestler. I come from a wrestling background. I take on 5 guys in one day, all the time. So you can't focus on a guy. You got to just focus on yourself, and that's what I did here.
In terms of the Wanderlei fight, I heard you saying in the previous interview that when the press asks, he says, I want it. When the UFC asks, he says, they don't.
Yeah.
When was the most recent time he turned the fight down?
This is such a joke. Wanderlei goes out and says the fight's never been offered to him. And the press believes that. Guys, this fight has been demanded for years by people like you, the press, by your entire country of Ireland, by my entire country of America, by the entire country of Brazil. Demanded this fight. Do you really think that the UFC isn't trying to put big fights together? Does it make any kind of sense that the UFC wouldn't have tried to match us? Of course they've tried to match us. And of course I've agreed, and of course he hasn't. And he won't. And I wish that they would get him in an interview like this and ask him if he'll do the fight. And when he says yes, ambush him with a contract, with the camera rolling, and see what he does. He might sign it, and if he does, we'll fight. But he will not sign it in closed-door sessions.
You mentioned Ireland there. Would the prospect of fighting in Ireland maybe in the future interest you?
I'll fight wherever they want to set that octagon up at. I don't pick. They could set that sumbitch up in my backyard and I'll fight. And they could set up in Ireland, they could set up in Brazil. When my music hits those speakers, I'll make that walk.
Finally, one last thing, Chael. I know you've answered a lot of questions today. You said that the Anderson loss still keeps you up at night sometimes. But the fact that Jones's toe was practically hanging off, if it had got to the end of the round, you would have been the champion. Does something like that not stick in your head at all?
No, and I never would have declared myself champion. I would have taken the belt, and we would have done a rematch. And if I whipped him in a rematch, then I would be the champion. But no, I'm not going to pretend I'm champion because a poor guy suffered an injury. Had I attacked his toe, maybe I could hang my hat on that, but I had nothing to do with it.
Finally, you mentioned rematches. Anderson is getting the rematch with Chris Weidman. How do you see that playing out? And you were very supportive of Weidman in the build-up to the fight. You said you wouldn't mind another shot at the 185 belt. Would you fight Chris Weidman?
Well, I have nothing against Anderson. Anderson's had a great career, and he's a great fighter. And those are the facts. And you can disparage him if you want, but it doesn't hold up to reality. He's done a great job. At the same time, Anderson took that fight real serious, and he got whipped. From the second that fight started, he got manhandled. He got thrown down and dominated. So he said to himself, well, I can fight real serious and get beat up, or I can joke around and get beat up. But if I joke around, I can always say I was joking around. And that was pretty clearly what happened. And what people are forgetting is Chris Weidman did not fight very well, and he still ran him over. Chris Weidman made a lot of errors about 4 to 7 minutes into that fight. From the 4-minute mark to the 7-minute mark, a lot of errors. And he still dominated that fight. So it's very hard to pretend that there's going to be a different outcome because they do it again. But we'll all tune in just in case.
Chael P. Sonnen writes the next verse of his career this Saturday night against Shogun on UFC Fox Sports 1. Chael, we really appreciate the time.
My pleasure.
We're going to go find that Irish journalist now.
I hope you do. I want you to tell me I'm right. He's right here. Hey, you from Ireland? So are they. Yeah, they didn't believe me. Told you.